These nerves are needed, or here specifically the facial nerve, because how do nerves work? They transfer stimuli. Basically, nerves transfer ions, Na plus and K plus. Okay, and specifically in the nerves, you need Na plus and K plus, or specifically Na plus, uh, to transfer an action potential to reach the muscle. When the action potential reaches the muscle, this action potential is called depolarization. So when this depolarization reaches the muscle, something inside the muscle changes. What does it change? It releases inside its structure calcium ions, Ca2 plus. When calcium ions are released, they allow for the contraction of the muscles. How? Because of Ca2 plus interacting with actin and myosin filaments in this muscle. Okay, this is just physiology. I'm explaining physiology for you. You will take it in second year. But this is why the facial nerve is important. And if you want to understand why nerves do their function, you need to understand physiology. So action potential transferring through the nerve reaches the muscle now releases Ca2 plus inside its structure. The Ca2 plus goes to actin and myosin filaments, allows it to contract, and the muscle becomes shorter muscles. Then this means that you're able to smile, you're able to get angry, and people see it on your face. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have three groups. Now we're done with facial nerve, but of course we need to understand their branches. Um, Before I get into the branches, we just need to know the facial muscle groups. The facial muscle groups are broadly characterized into five groups. Okay, five groups. First, you have here. This is one group, the occipitofrontalis. Okay, occipitofrontalis. This is one
Mm-hmm.
group. The second group, one, two, three, four, five, six, or like let's say six. But the second group you've studied about is the a group of the muscles near the ear, and they are three, or let's just say auricularis group here, occipitofrontalis. The second one, auricularis group. We'll study in them in detail right now. The third group is the orbital group, orbital group surrounding the eye. The third group, or fourth, sorry, now one, two, three, four. Fourth group, nasal group, nasal group. The fifth is the oral group, and the oral group is the most sophisticated. There are so many here. This allows you to eat, talk, smile, spit, whistle. I don't know. Okay, oral group. Then after it is the platysma. Platysma. Okay, occipitofrontalis, auricularis, orbital group, nasal group, oral group, platysma. Going back to the facial nerve, okay, going back to the facial nerve, just give me a second. Okay, because the facial nerve is annoying for you, I'm gonna quickly tell you some stuff about it. So, for the nerve, when you study any nerve, you need to understand where it comes from, what's its functions, what's its branches, and what are the branches responsible to um, reach out to. Okay, but the facial nerve, I'm just gonna give you maybe the branches now because there's so much about it. Maybe we have to do a class alone on it. Okay, so here, because we're talking about the facial nerve and the facial muscles, so we just need to know the motor part of the facial nerve, the motor part of the facial nerve when we talk about the facial muscles. But it doesn't mean that the facial nerve is only made up of that. Okay, because the facial nerve extends to so many other places. Okay, and part of it goes cutaneously to the facial muscles to motorly innervate them. Okay, so the first branch of the facial nerve is, one second, where is it? Yes, here. Again, one second. I remove all of them here. You have temporal branch of facial nerve. Now we're talking only about what? Innervations of the muscles. That's not to say facial nerve is only that, okay? We have the cutaneous, uh, the superficial part of the facial nerve goes to the facial muscles. And the first is divided into five parts. Temporal branches of facial nerve to innervate muscles near the temporal area. And an example is the temporalis muscle here. You see this muscle? It's innervated by the temporal branch of the facial nerve. Okay. The first branch is the temporal branch of facial nerve. The second branch is the zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. The third branch is the buccal branch of the facial nerve. The fourth is the marginal mandibular branch of the facial. And finally, the cervical branch of the facial nerve. Cervical branch of the facial nerve. As I said, temporal branch innervates something such as the temporalis muscle, but it's not the only thing. Just an example. Zygomatic branch of facial nerve innervates, let's say, the zygomatic major and the zygomatic minor, which are the upper here, which innervates those two. Zygomatic major, zygomatic minor, and some others. That's just an example. The buccal part innervates the buccal muscle of the facial skeleton. Here, buccinator. The marginal mandibular innervates, if you see here, some muscles that exist, and you will see now, I'll revise it with you, but they innervate some lower group of the lower muscles that affect the mouth. And finally, the cervical. Cervical, why is it called cervical branch? It's because it innervates around the neck. Anything around the neck, it will be referred to as cervical. Okay? That's just general information about the facial nerve related to the facial muscles. Now, let's go into the groups. The groups are, first of, yes, we said the groups, they are subtofrontalis, auricularis, orbital, nasal, oral, and tarsal. Now, and we know the branches. The orbital group. Let's start with the orbital group. The orbital group. The orbital group.
Now we're talking about the muscles, yes?
Yes, yes. The muscles.
Okay.
Okay. First, let's discuss, let's say here, the orbital groups, the muscles of the orbital group of the facial muscle. What does it mean? We're talking
Oh,
about the muscles.
this one I
Yes.
know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, two parts
Perfect.
it has.
How do you
Yeah.
know it?
I watched the Kenhub video firstly, and after I looked at
Perfect.
the Sobota.
That's amazing. Perfect. That's good. So it's good. Now you're gonna be a master of it. Okay. So if you know what muscles are part of the orbital group of the face?
Orbicularis oculi. It has
Mm-hmm.
two parts, one palpebral, which are eyelids, and
Yes.
one orbital around the
Yes.
eyelids.
Okay. Mhm. So the
Uh,
orbicalis
yeah.
oris is made up of three parts, as you said: palpebral, lacrimal.
And lacrimal, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. You got it. Don't worry. All right. So first, orbicular oris attachments. We have to know that it originates. So orbicularis oris surrounds the eye socket and extends into the eyelids. And it has three parts: palpebral, lacrimal, orbital. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, the attachment. Where does it originate from? It originates from three parts: the medial orbital margin, okay, the medial palpebral ligament, and the lacrimal bone. These are originations. Okay.
Mhm.
Where does it insert? It inserts onto the skin around the margin of the orbit.
And is it attached the frontal process of maxilla?
Um, Frontal process of maxilla. It's attached. I don't know that, but what I know it is, or it originates into from medial orbit margin. I think that's what you mean, probably. Yes, here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the medial palpebral ligament, some ligament that exists, and the lacrimal bone. But the medial orbital margin, what is it made up of? Of course, as you said, I think the frontal process of the maxilla. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where does
Yeah.
it insert? It inserts onto the skin around the margin of the orbit. It inserts onto the skin around the margin of the orbit. So it will come out and insert into the skin around the margin of the orbit. Here, there is some skin here. It inserts into that. Why? Is because you need to, when you squint your eyes, when you need to like get surprised, when you, all of that is the action of the orbicular zones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the actions of those parts that you mentioned, palpebral, lacrimal, and orbital. What are those actions? Palpebral part, it gently closes the eyelids. Palpebral part, it closes the eyelids, but gently. Okay, I'm
So
assuming
like
here.
blinking.
Yes, palpebral part of this orbicular oris here, it closes the eye gently. Exactly. If someone asks you to close your eyes, that's the palpebral part functioning. Lacrimal part, it involves in drainage of the tears here. The lacrimal part involves in the drainage of the tears. And then finally, orbital part, all of this. What's it used for? Closes the eye tightly. Closes the eye tightly. Okay?
It's when we like wink to someone. It's
Exactly. Or
like
you're trying to
it
squint your
could
eye when
be,
you are like,
yeah.
you're like, you don't believe someone, you're like, You know, this movement is the orbit part responsible for. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the orbicularis oculi innervated by? It's innervated by the temporal and zygomatic branch of facial nerve. Here, see?
Give me a second.
Take your time. What is it innervated by?
Temporal.
Innervated by. Ah, okay. So the orbital part is used to squinch the eye and close it tightly. Okay. Lacrimal is used to drain the tears. Palpebral is used to close the eye slowly. What is it innervated by? Temporal branch of the facial nerve, and you have zygomatic branch of the temporal nerve. Okay, here
Mm-hmm.
it innervates it. So that's the first introduction for me to teach you something about muscles. This is how you should study for muscles. You need to know where it's situated. You need to know how it's originating from, how it inserts. You need to know its function and why it inserts in that region. You need to memorize some stuff about like some expression. Okay, that's done. Then you need to know the innervations. What innervates it? What causes it to do those functions? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. The next thing we have to do is corrugator superculi. Maybe you know this method. Corrugator superculi, and not this one, but this one. Corrugator
It's like when
superculi.
we raise the brows.
Yes, yes. Or when you draw when you are angry, your brows get close to each other. This is the function of corrugator superculi. Okay, so corrugator superculi is a much smaller muscle and located posteriorly to the orbicularis oculi. Posteriorly to the orbicularis oculi. Alright?
Mhm.
Now we need to know the attachments, where it originates, where it inserts. Here, second, look, that's the corrugator superculi. I isolated it, and then I asked the thing to tell me its origins and insertions. So you can see the course of it. Attachments originate from the medial aspect of superciliary arc. You understand now why your pins are so important? Because now you start learning about some stuff that you don't really need, but you need. So it originates from here, the medial aspect of the superciliary arch, and it inserts into the skin of the eyebrows. Of course, we need to know that it inserts in the skin of the eyebrows. Why? Because uh, if it contracts, it pulls the eyebrows closer to each other. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. That's the actions. Innervation, temporal branch of facial nerve. Temporal branch
Temporal,
of facial nerve.
yes.
Yes, temporal branch of facial nerve. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Now, these are the 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 orbital, the muscles that are in the orbit. Next, we're gonna move on to the nasal group.
By the way, Procerus, to which
Nasal.
group?
Nasal.
Nasal.
Yes.
Okay.
Procerus is nasal. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the nasal, and Procerus is the first thing we're gonna discuss actually.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? Let's do it. Fine. Procerus is the most superior of the nasal muscles. The most superior. First point. It's the most superior of the nasal muscles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It lies superficially to the other muscles of the facial expression. So it lies superficially. Okay. Attachments. Attachments originates from the nasal bone. See, isolate. Originates from the nasal bone. Right here. From the nasal bone. Okay. And inserts into the skin of the lower medial forehead here. Lower medial forehead. Search the skin of the lower forehead between the eyebrows here. See, it originates from ah sorry here. It originates from the nasal bone and inserts into the uh, skin of the lower medial forehead. Okay. Actions. What does it do? It pulls the eyebrows downwards. Pulls the eyebrows downwards. And finally, how is it innervated? It's innervated by the buccal branch of the facial nerve. Buccal branch of the facial nerve. The next muscle, and that's the posterior system. The next muscle we're going to talk about is the nasalis. The nasalis. The nasalis is made up of two parts. Here, transverse nasalis, alar nasalis. The nasalis is made up of two parts, transverse nasalis, alar nasalis. Okay, transverse nasalis, alar nasalis. Transverse nasalis, it originates from the maxilla. Here, transverse nasalis, by this one. It originates from the maxilla, easy. And it actually does. And where does it from the maxilla? Lateral to the nose, of course, lateral to the nose. And it attaches onto the aponeurosis across the nose. The aponeurosis across the nose, or you can say the dorsum of the nose. It inserts into the aponeurosis across the dorsum of the nose. Originates from the maxilla, inserts onto the aponeurosis on the dorsum of the nose. What's the function or the action? The transverse part compresses the nose opening. If you want to make the nasal opening smaller, the transverse nasalis is used to make the nasal opening smaller. Okay. The alar part, on the other hand, right here, the alar part, you can see it. The alar part originates from the maxilla overlying the lateral incisors. Here, it originates from the maxilla overlying the lateral incisor. Here. That's the origination. It inserts into the alar cartilage of the nasal skeleton. The alar cartilage of the nasal skeleton. Like I'm going to show you what the alar cartilage is. See, that's the cartilage here. The alar cartilage of the nasal skeleton. If I remove the muscles, I don't know if it's going to stay. It's not, but you can see here the alar cartilage of the nasal skeleton. Okay. What does it do? It widens the nasal opening. So imagine this pulls like this. It will narrow this opening. That's the function. Deal? The innervation buccal branches of the facial nerve. Innervation of both the alar and the transverse buccal branches of the facial nerve. Okay. We have one more here. Depressor septi nasi. Depressor septinazi. It originates from maxilla above the medial incisors here. These are incisors, they are medial. Originates from the maxilla above the medial incisors and inserts into the nasal septum. Nasal septum. Actions pulls the nasal septum inferiorly. Here, if this contracts, it pulls the sting inferiorly. So what it does to the nose, it widens the nasal openings. So both the alar part of the nasalis and the depressor septi nasi, when they contract, their function is to open and widen the nasal openings.
So they're working together?
Yes. Because imagine if this, if you're trying to widen your like nasal openings, these muscles will contract. And when they contract, they do the same thing. They widen the nasal openings. But the transverse, which is the other part of the nasalis, it narrows the nasal openings. Now, innervation is the buccal branch of the facial nerve. Buccal branch of facial nerve. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to the oral part. And I think after the oral part, everything else is easy. It's very simple. But the oral part is actually one intense. But I'm going to make it very easy for you.
I have a
So,
question.
yes.
During I was writing down the names of the muscles. I accidentally wrote to the nasal group, the levator labiae superioris
Alik Nazi, yes.
Yeah, nazi and superioris. It's not like from the nasal part.
So these are not nasals. They're in charge of
Okay.
here the mouth. You know. So
Okay.
the one only in nasal group is procerus, transverse nasalis, alar nasalis, depressor septi nasi. These are the nasal. The levator
Okay.
labii superioris alik nasi is part of the upper group of the mouth. Okay, and we will go over it now.
Okay, and one more question.
Yes.
Depressor supercilii. It's the eye group or not? Depressor supercilii.
This one,
I think
yes.
it's
Yes, it's part of the
yeah.
orbital group. Yes, we didn't do it actually, but yes, just add it there.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, okay, lower. These are the lower facial muscles. Depressor anguli oris, depressor labii, sorry, depressor anguli oris, depressor labii inferioris, and mentalis. The upper ones, we start rhizorius, rhizorius, rhizorius.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the upper ones are rhizorius, zygomaticus major, zygomaticus major. Number 3, zygomaticus minor. zygomaticus minor, for levator labii superioris, levator labii superioris, and finally levator labii superioris alignasi.
The shitty name.
Yes, yes, levator labii superioris alignasi.
It's upper, yes?
Yes, these are upper. Seconds. Those. And here there's another one. Levator anguli os. Levator anguli os. Levator anguli os. I know, right?
Too much.
Yes.
Elevator anguli oris is
Oris.
also the upper part.
Upper part, yes. Upper ones are rhizoris, zygomaticus major, zygomaticus minor, levator labii superioris, levator labii superioris alignasi, levator anguli oris. Okay. Now I know for each, it's a lot of muscles, but I advise you when you have the time, because I want to go through the some other left ones, just look where they attach and where they insert, because but they all make sense. It's not like something a lot, but they all make sense. If I have time now, I will show you. But let's go to the next group. So you have orbital, nasal, oral, occipitofrontalis. Okay, this is the next group we want to talk about, which is just the occipitofrontalis. It
Give me a
inserts
second. Just the last one, the upper part was
here.
elevator
Anguli.
angularis anguli oris.
Exactly.
Anguli oris. Okay.
Yes. Okay. All right. Then you have occipitofrontalis. It originates from here, epicranial aponeurosis, and it inserts into the skin of the eyebrows. Okay. Aponeurosis, epicranial aponeurosis inserts into the skin of the eyebrows. What does it do? Easy. Elevates eyebrows. Elevates eyebrows. What innervates it? Again, because it's here near the temporal branch, so temporal branch of facial nerve. Okay, temporal branch of facial nerve. We have two more groups and we're done. So the next group is auricularis group, near the ears. Auricularis group, near the ears. We have anterior auricularis, superior auricularis, posterior auricularis. Anterior auricularis, superior auricularis, posterior auricularis. And finally, The platism. The platism.
Mhm. It's just a
Uh,
separate group.
exactly. Separate group. Platism is a separate group, auricular is separate group, orbital ear separate, nasal, oral, and occipitofrontalis. All of them are separate groups. Let's say six, so that you know all of them. Okay.
Mhm.
Um. Okay. So these are the facial muscles. Okay. Everything here. We've covered everything now. One thing I want to do maybe is to just give you the origins insertions of all of those, just so that you have a full information, so that also you know exactly what their functions are. Okay, but they're kicking me out of the cafe. Just give me maybe 10 minutes. I will come back. Okay,
Okay.
we can do them, and then I can give you pins shortly, and then you can be done for the day. Okay,
Okay.
just give me a second. I'll be back.